Yo, what is up everybody, and welcome back to another Genshin Impact video, and today we're going to be doing a Xiangling guide. So unfortunately, I did actually finish recording this, but it didn't actually record at all. So the whole time me making a video, I didn't even realize that none of it was being saved. So I'm redoing the video. I recorded this a few days ago, but regardless of that, it is what it is. Let's just get right into the video. Anyways, I'm going to be covering the normal things I cover in my guide. For example, artifacts, her best builds, her best teammates, a showcase, and the best weapons. And I think that's pretty much it. I figured I'd make another guide since it's been a while since I made one on Xiangling, and everyone can pick from a free character now, a free leeway, 4-star. So she is one of the characters that you pick. Then hopefully this guide will help you out. Anyways, let's get right into the video. Alright then, let's talk about her weapons. So for her 5-star weapons, her best in slot for 5-star weapons is really going to be any of them. Most likely the DPS ones, so the Jade Spear or the Staff of Homa, or that other new spear that we got. I mean, we're getting so many new spears and stuff, or spear characters, it's hard to keep track of what their names are, but that other new spear gives a bunch of attack, I think, and it has crazy high base attack, plus elemental damage bonus. Again, I can't remember the name for it, but that's also a solid spear. Or really any 5-star spear is, like I said, any 5-star spear works well. As far as 4-star weapons, her best one is probably going to be the catch, in my opinion, just because it gives a bunch of energy recharge. And then you have other options, other pretty good options, like the Favonius Lance, the Deathmatch, the Black Cliff, even Wavebreaker's Fin could probably work, but I don't know how many of you actually have this weapon, or the Dragon's Bane. I would recommend doing the catch. I think that's the best that you can use, but you can't go wrong with the Deathmatch because of the extra crit rate, or the Favonius for the extra energy recharge and the extra particles, but the catch gives you a lot of that anyway, as well as burst damage. Or the Dragon's Bane because it gives you a bunch of elemental mastery, as well as doing more damage to characters afflicted by Pyro or Hydro. So if you have a high refinement, it can be really well and really strong. I've never tested this weapon out, so I'm not exactly sure how well this would work, but you can check out other people do guides on this weapon. So regardless of that, that's pretty much going to cover her best weapons. For Xiangling's artifacts, there's 2 ways to build her. So you either have the Pyro set, so the Crimson Witch, or the Emblem of Severed Fate right here. Those are her 2 best in slot sets. It really just comes down to which one has better substats. They pretty much give you roughly about the same damage. I think maybe the Emblem might be a little bit higher, but I'm not entirely sure. I haven't tested it myself. I personally run the Crimson Witch because I'm always going to be vaporizing with her, so why not? But I know that the 4-piece emblem is pretty good because of that extra energy recharge, as well as the more energy you have, the more damage your burst does. So the only thing I can tell you is that the fact that Emblem of Severed Fate is way more resin efficient, because that set can be used on a lot of characters, and technically the Crimson Witch is only being able to, you can only really use it on Pyro characters. So that's pretty much all that I can talk about there. For how you want to build her, I mean, it's quite obvious, but crit damage, pyro damage, attack percent, and then good substats: crit damage, crit rate, elemental mastery, attack percent. That's what you're looking for. If you want to run an ER Sans, you can. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just you're gonna lose out on a good amount of damage. Not too much, but attack percent does give you a nice damage increase. So that's what I run. If you can, just look for ER substats rather than doing an ER Sans piece, roughly about 150%. But you can get away with that because you run the catch. So if you have the catch, then you don't really need to worry about this. If you're running an attack percent weapon or any of the other weapons, then you're gonna have to get a little bit of energy recharge. But yeah, anyways, that's gonna be pretty much cover it for artifacts here. So for Xiangling's Constellations, the only one that's the most important is C4. It's actually the biggest increase you can get for DPS, because her ult will last 4 seconds longer. You can't really go wrong with that. Having a 4-second duration is actually a huge buff, just because of Xiangling's ult and how much damage it actually does. The rest of them, they're pretty much just DPS increases. You can't go wrong with them. So getting Constellations on Xiangling is really good. But once you hit C4, that's like your best one that you can possibly get. And that's pretty much it for Constellations. Nothing much else to say. So for her talents and her modifiers, so if you're building her as like if she's going to be your main DPS, then you can upgrade her normal attack a little bit. I don't use her as a main DPS. She does. You can use her as a carry, yeah, but I use her as a sub DPS. Like she's gonna be off field doing all the damage while I have somebody else doing auto attacks. So I don't touch this at all. I haven't touched it. That's why it's still at level 4. For her second talent, Guoba, it's just a guy that taunts a little bit and then does a little bit of fire damage. It's decent, nothing crazy. You don't really have to go crazy in upgrading it, but it's not bad to have it upgraded. The main one you want to upgrade is going to be her ultimate. That's where all her damage comes from, is the Pyronado. It's basically a tornado of fire that spins around you and orbits you kind of constantly, going around you in a circle. And it does AoE, hitting a bunch of enemies because it's spinning around you. It lasts for 10 seconds on base, but with C4 it's going to be 14 seconds. It costs 80 energy, so it is kind of high, but with the ER Sands, and then as long as you're running with Bennett and Feeder Energy, you'll be fine. Depending on teams, you know, like if you're running on the Raiden team, you're never really going to worry about energy. She's going to be like topped off half the time. But regardless of that, and you can see the power damage modifier is 213% at level 11, and if you crown this, it gets obviously even stronger. But 200% for 14 seconds constantly. That can also vaporize. That's where the big damage really comes from, and it's just insane because this can all be done off field, so your DPS can go even higher because you don't have to be using her, for example, like Xiao or Raiden. Her other two passives are decent, this one being okay because it's a 10% attack buff every so often that you can pick up, but I wouldn't really focus on too heavy on picking up those peppers. So this section of the video is just going to be me talking about a quick tip on Xiangling and using her with Bennett, and basically talking about snapshotting before I talk about her teams. So most of the time you're going to be running Xiangling with Bennett, and you're going to be using Bennett's Birth and snapshotting it with Xiangling. If you don't know what snapshotting is, it's basically where, at least for Bennett specifically, this is mainly a tactic that people use for Bennett, but you pop Bennett's burst and then you swap into Xiangling and then you pop her burst, and basically when Xiangling has the attack buff, her burst will snapshot it or take a picture of where her attack is, kind of, or pretty much whatever her attack stat is at the time when she's buffed, her burst will take that into account, and no matter where you are, for the rest of the duration, it's going to last with that attack buff, regardless if you're in Bennett's Burst or not. Characters like Xingqiu can't snapshot, so that's why you would have to stay in Bennett's radius, but Xiangling doesn't have to, so she can take full use of Bennett's buff and not have to be into it in his ult. A lot of people don't know this, though, is the fact that Bennett's buff doesn't apply instantly, so I think I can say that everyone's done this, or that everyone usually does this, is they swap to Bennett, and I'll showcase this here, but they'll swap to Bennett, they'll pop his burst, swap to Xiangling, and instantly pop her burst. Like I said before, the problem is Bennett's burst doesn't activate instantly, so you're actually not buffing Xiangling at all, and it's snapshotting before the buff is applied, meaning you're losing out on a good amount of damage, and potentially on however strong your Bennett is, it can be a lot. So I'll showcase that quickly here, but what you would normally do is you do this, and then you press triangle. You see how the buff is applied here right now, but if I step out, it's gone, right? The attack buff should leave pretty soon, but if I go back in, now it applies. You can see that it's not instant, so you should be waiting when you swap to Xiangling. Instead of doing it, like I said, instead of doing it instantly, wait a second. Wait like half a second, then pop Xiangling and check your damage numbers. They will probably be higher. What I usually do is wait until Pyro is applied to my character, so then I know that's when Bennett's buff is applied. And that's the best tip I can give you, and hopefully this helps you. The same thing happens with Beto. She can snapshot, but she won't be able to because Bennett's burst applies for half a second, so if you're doing it instantly, the second you swap, you're not going to be getting that buff. Just wanted to say that. Hopefully that helps you guys out. Alright, now we're in the team section. So Xiangling can be run on a bunch of different teams, but the main team that people use her on is going to be the national team. If you guys don't know what that team is, it's basically a team that was popularized by these Chinese players. and it was a team of 4 stars. So it was Xiangling, Bennett, Xingqiu, and Sucrose, or Sucrose or Chongyun. Regardless, I think it was probably Chongyun, but that team, I'll just have it there so you guys can see. Let me just find Chongyun here. But this team right here, with Xiangling being your carry, was one of the fastest clearing teams. It was breaking records and stuff like that, and it was just clearing the abyss insanely fast. But this is what made Xiangling really, really popular, and this is how people found out that Xiangling is actually a broken character. So with this team right here, if you wanted to run this team of all 4 stars, anyone can run it very, very easily. You're going to do well in the abyss. However, unfortunately, it does take a lot of resources to make this team as high as it possibly can, because you have to invest into multiple characters if you want it. So, but regardless of that, this team is really, really strong, and that's what made her popular, basically, because her ult can vaporize, it can snapshot, and it's AoE, and it's off field. So other characters you can use to do DPS, while Xiangling's off field doing tons of vaporizes, and you could feed Xiangling energy as well at the same time. So that's what made the team really, really strong. So solid team right here. Again, Sucrose can take place for Chongyun if you want to use a Redescent set, and the Tails of whatever, that 48% attack level. Another team you can do is you can replace, I mean, you still have these three core, but you could replace and the first character like Sucrose or Chongyun for Raiden, and this is a very strong team because Raiden can provide that extra sort of DPS as well as feeding all your characters energy. Again, really, it doesn't really matter what team you run with Xiangling, as long as Xiangling is paired with Bennett, because that's her best teammate. The one crucial thing you need is going to be some sort of hydro character. So if you don't want to run Xingqiu or Raiden, maybe you don't have either, or you want to use Xingqiu on another team and you have Child, well then you can run this team. You can run Child, Xiangling, Bennett, with the last one being a flex. It could be really anything. So if you want to run Jean, Diona, another character like Sucrose, it really doesn't matter, just as long as you have Xiangling and Bennett paired with one sort of hydro character. That's what I would recommend, because that's how Xiangling does her most consistent damage and her most consistent vaporizes. And that's pretty much really going to be covering teams. You could also run but before I say this, or before I end this section of the video, you could also run on a main or mono pyro team if you want. I'm just giving you like a meta team, or the best teams you could possibly use on her. But there's nothing wrong with using her with just multiple pyro characters, since she's also a solid pyro character without vaporizing. So this part of the video is just going to be a showcase with the Raiden team. It's going to be floor 12 of the Abyss, but this is a decently invested Raiden team. It's not crazy strong. It's not like I have a crown Raiden or crown Xiangling, Bennett, or Xingqiu. They're not crowned at all. I think they're like at least at level 8 talents. So that's what I just want to get that out there before. A few of them are high Constellations, Bennett being C6, Xiangling being C6, and then Xingqiu's like C2. But regardless of that, I'm just going to get right into the showcase. And yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy it. Also, if you did make it to the end of the video, thank you. I really appreciate it for you guys watching this long. If you can, be sure to like and subscribe, because it does help me out. And I'll be posting future guides later on, or other Genshin content. Anyways, see you guys in the next video. Peace.